Hello, and welcome to another episode of Spotlight on Health. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Eschenauer, the health officer at the Kanawha-Charleston Health Department, and we have a unique episode today here in a kitchen show that is about cooking and safe cooking for the holidays. And our guest today is Chef Paul. So Chef, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, Paul Smith, grew up here in Charleston, West Virginia, went to school in New York, pastry school in Napa Valley, traveled all over the country cooking, and my country road brought me back home. So have two restaurants now here in Charleston and consult with numerous others. So I've got The Pitch, which is in the Shawnee Sports Complex, and 1010 Bridge, which is in the Bridge Road shopping area.
Oh, your restaurants have an incredible reputation. If you want a great meal in Charleston, especially 1010, it is the place to go.
Thanks so much.
I love going up there. So today we want to talk a little bit about safe cooking in the kitchen, especially as it applies to turkey.
Yeah.
It's coming up. It's going to be turkey season here in just a few more weeks. So what are things that you start thinking of when you are going to prepare a raw bird, whether it's turkey, chicken, etc., in your kitchen?
So the number one thing is, well, for me, finding the size of the bird, and then concentrating on not cross-contaminating. Poultry is probably the one thing that is the easiest to cross-contaminate. So making sure you're using gloves, making sure that you have a clean workspace, switching out the cutting boards or sanitizing in between. And then so we're going to talk about brining, kind of a little insurance on your turkey that it isn't dry. Not that we've ever had dry turkeys before. Right?
Oh, never.
Never. And then we're going to talk about a safe brine. So when you do a brine, you heat it. And then, how do you cool it down? When do you put the turkey in? How long do you do it? Where do you store the turkey? Proper storing techniques. And then how to cook it.
All right. So real quick, tell me a little bit, what do you mean by cross-contamination?
So cross-contamination is something, if you use let's say a cutting board or your hands. Hands are probably the easiest way and are the easiest way to cross-contaminate. So we will be using gloves. Cross-contamination is basically taking a contaminated surface and adding it to a non-contaminated surface that is probably a ready-to-eat thing that you're not going to be cooking.
Mm-hmm. So when you go to the store and you buy that big frozen turkey, how do you thaw that turkey out to start with before we even start working on it? What do you do?
There's two different ways. So you can use the passive method, which is just in the refrigerator and probably will take at least 48 hours, depending on the size of the turkey.
So a minimum of 2 days in a refrigerator.
Yeah, so I would definitely, we always think ahead when we're cooking, right? So I'd probably get your turkey the weekend before Thanksgiving. So either Saturday or Sunday, bring it home, put it in a container, because a lot of times, because the turkeys are frozen or fresh, the bag might have a little puncture in it, and so the juice may come out. So put it in something, put it on, as far down to the bottom of your refrigerator as possible. And that way, again, cross-contamination. You want the poultry to be all the way at the bottom and everything else above it. Just in case something were to happen and the juice gets out, it's just on the bottom of the refrigerator.
Yeah, and that key thing about putting in a pan so you don't get those juices and contaminate your whole fridge.
I use an aluminum pan, something that is disposable. A lot of times when I do turkey and brining and things like that, I will use a styrofoam cooler, a bucket from Lowe's, an aluminum pan. That way, again, even though you're going to clean it and sanitize it, a lot of times I'll just discard it.
Well, good deal. All right, so once you've got that turkey thawed, what's the next step? What are we going to do?
So the next step is, first of all, I think purchasing a turkey, you want to think about the size of the bird. You want to think about how many people you're cooking for. A lot of times I would say half a pound to 3/4 of a pound per person. So, if you've got even, you think about how many bones are in a turkey, what the yield is on that. It's probably about a 50% yield. So if you buy a 25 pound bird, you've got 12 pounds of usable meat.
So about half.
About half normally. And then I would say probably 8 ounces per person, or maybe a little bit more depending on, if you want to have those leftovers and those turkey sandwiches the next day.
Oh, yes.
And then obviously thawing it properly. And then what I like to do is brine. I mean, the brine to me is essential because what you're doing is you're adding moisture to the bird. And that way, again, you're not going to we tend to always overcook chicken or poultry or turkey, things like that, because of the, risk of salmonella. So for this, the brine will impart moisture into it with the salt and the sugar through, osmosis. So it's great.
Oh, excellent. So what's the other method of thawing that you typically use?
So a lot of times it is the convection method. So running cold water. So putting, again, the turkey in probably in a bucket, something that will contain the whole turkey, and running cold water over it. That way the circulation or that convection of the cold water running constantly over it. And you also want to put it in a sink. That way make sure too that the bucket isn't directly over the drain. Yes. And that way the water can get into the drain, because you don't want to have turkey water all over your floor.
Yes.
So if you don't plan ahead and you say, or you get thrust into cooking the turkey, like, oh yeah, hey, we need you to cook the turkey tomorrow and it's Wednesday, this would be the way to do it. So open up the turkey, or you can leave it actually in the bag, either way, and just run cold water over it.
So we have here with us today, we have a turkey that we have thawed. And once we take this out, what is the brine that you like to use to make that turkey a lot more moist than what you would normally achieve just with a raw turkey?
So normally a brine is a salt sugar solution that you submerge anything in. So for turkey, because of the season, I tend to use apple juice, equal parts salt and sugar, aromatics like herbs, garlic, clove. The easiest thing to do would probably just go out and get a pre-made pickling spice. It has bay leaves, it has peppercorns, it has juniper, all of those
pickling spice, really?
Which doesn't make a ton of sense because we're not necessarily pickling, but we're kind of, imparting flavor.
I see. And then you put all those spices together in your bucket.
Yes.
And you take
we'll put it in a pot.
Okay.
So we'll cook everything together. So you put enough water in there. So if, let's say you have a bucket, it's a 5-gallon bucket, you want to make probably 2 to 3 gallons of brine, because obviously you have to account for the weight and the volume of the turkey when you submerge it, because a lot of times you don't want 5 gallons, put a turkey in, and then you've got 3 gallons on your floor.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make the brine, and you heat the brine. And then so what I do, it's kind of a quick fix too, is you put half the amount of water that the brine calls for, and then you add half the amount, the other half is ice. And that way it instantly cools it down, because that's another thing. You want to make sure that your brine is cold when it goes over the turkey, because that way if you put a hot brine over the turkey and you're submerging that in for, let's say, 24 to 48 hours, that's also a very easy way to get people sick, because it raises the temperature of the turkey and it puts it in that danger zone.
Well, let's get started cooking.
All right.
So before we get started, first things first, let's do a hand washing.
Let's do it.
All right. So that brine, I see you brought some, it looks like some very delicious spices. I can smell them when we open the containers. So walk me through making an outstanding Chef Paul quality brine.
Sure. So normally you always need salt and sugar. Those are the two things that will what it does is it kind of pulls the moisture out in the brine, and then it puts it back in. So go ahead and add equal parts kosher salt. I never use iodized salt. It just has that iodine flavor to it. So I use kosher salt. Also too, you wouldn't use something like a J.Q. Dickinson salt or a Himalayan salt, something that's expensive, because it's a brine.
You're making a brine.
Yeah.
So a kosher salt.
Kosher salt, throw that in there. Then we'll go ahead, we'll add, so this is apple juice. So
Apple juice.
Apple juice in there. And you could use citrus juice. You can just use water. I tend to use apple juice because it's in the season. And also think about when you're brining something, what you're brining and what the end use is. So if we were doing something that had, let's say, an Asian component, I might add a little rice wine vinegar or add a little bit of soy sauce, something like that,
to give that,
carry that flavor.
That flavor.
So we've got the aromatics. So we have...
Tell us about these.
So we've got bay leaves, we have mustard seed, we have peppercorns, we've got star anise, we have cloves, and juniper berries.
Juniper berry.
So a lot of the things that would be in a pickling spice.
Okay.
So again, this is to impart flavor. It also smells great.
Oh, it does.
We'll do about half of that garlic. So garlic cloves.
About how many total cloves?
I would say 4 or 5, depending on what. We're going to save the other ones and actually put it in the bird. And we'll talk about stuffing versus dressing here in a little bit. And then we'll do a little bit of rosemary.
Rosemary? How much of that would you like?
Put one. Rosemary's pretty strong. So I'll just put, 1 sprig in there. A couple sprigs of fresh thyme.
Fresh thyme.
There we go. And that way, again, we're just kind of carrying over the flavor, because a lot of these flavors will be in a lot of the other dishes that you'll have over the course of Thanksgiving Day. And then we'll fill it up, probably I'd say maybe a gallon of water in this. We'll bring it up to a boil, and then when we take it off, you can strain it or you don't have to strain it. It's kind of like pickling. So a lot of times I will go ahead and leave everything in there. Just make sure that when you pull it out of the brine that there's not peppercorn sticking to the turkey.
I see. Okay. Excellent.
Great.
All right, so we'll add the water and get that boiling.
Add the water, get it boiling.
All right. So Chef Paul, now that we've made our brine and we've placed it in our bucket, we mixed half and half ice.
Right.
Got our turkey in. We add a little extra water just to get it covered, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Now you want to make sure that it's stored in a refrigerator.
Yes.
Because you're going to put it in there for at least 24 hours, 48 hours, somewhere around there. Because that way it allows for the time of the penetration.
All right, so now that we have our mix all here for dressing, tell me a little bit more about what all we put into this.
So we added, kind of the chef's trilogy, which is mirepoix, which is onion, celery, carrot. And then we picked some fresh thyme, picked some fresh rosemary. We added our fortified chicken stock, and then our bread mixture. And now we're just going to stir it up until it just kind of soaks up that moisture, and then we'll cover it and pop it in the oven. And that way it cooks everything down. It imparts all that flavor. It doesn't turn to mush, but it also adds, if you smell all that flavor coming out of it. And also too, don't forget the giblets.
All the giblets.
Can't forget the giblets.
The stuff in the bag.
That stuff in the bag. It's pretty much goodness. It's secret bag of goodness.
Secret bag of goodness. So all this cooking, all these great spice combinations have led to the award.
The award.
The award, yes. So tell us.
The bag of goodness led to the award.
Tell us about the award.
So, the award was something that I never would have imagined. So the James Beard Award is basically like the culinary Oscars. I have had the honor of cooking in a lot of different states, but to come home to West Virginia and to have it happen here is beyond my wildest dreams. You think about the states. So it was Best Chef of the Southeast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Kentucky,
Stiff competition.
Tennessee. You
Southern cooking.
Southern cooking. And also, too, think about there's probably more restaurants in Atlanta than there are in all of West Virginia.
Oh, no doubt. It's a big city.
For them to recognize a restaurant, a chef, and most importantly, a team from small town in a small state that isn't necessarily recognized for its culinary, I wouldn't say goodness, because, the pepperoni roll is absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
But that's kind of our claim to fame. So now we see a direct reflection of that. So right now we're about 10 or 15% out of town guests. And for a small restaurant of 48 seats in Charleston, West Virginia, to have 10% of the people coming in from out of town and changing their direction, it's amazing.
Oh, that is.
Awesome.
The food crowd, they do follow quality.
They absolutely do. I mean, travel, top 3 reasons why to travel now is for food. And it's always a really cool thing. Always kind of maybe a little backhanded compliment. They're like, wow, I'm from Soho. This restaurant could be in Soho, or this restaurant could be in Chicago or Charleston, South Carolina, or whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But it's in Charleston, West Virginia, because that's where we wanted it to be.
Sure.
And it's home.
Yeah.
And also, too, it goes to show you that West Virginia is no longer America's best kept secret.
That is definitely the truth.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the award, and it really brings some recognition here to Charleston and what you're doing here in our community. Here we are at Health Right, where outreach to our underserved or unserved,
Sure.
for all intents and purposes,
Absolutely.
that you're going to do some volunteer work here and teaching some of our local residents on how to cook to that high level.
It's absolutely great. So we are taking 10 students for a year. So there will be 40 students over this year. So there will be a month of in this very classroom training, and then 2 months of on-the-job training to get them out of whatever program they're in and whatever issue or whatever obstacle that was in their way. They have shown that they have overcome that. They've been vetted by their program. They come in here. We talk about cooking, very similar things like this. Not getting into the crazy minutia that we do, but really, number one, getting the confidence to get back into the workforce. They will also come out with a food handler's card. Mm-hmm. They will be certified to be a safe food handler. And they will also, we will talk about getting their, doing their resume, getting, the things that kind of we take for granted, how to fill out an application, all of these things to get back into the workforce. Because what I saw after COVID, I think 35% of hospitality workers did not return to the hospitality field.
35%? Yep. That's staggering.
It is. Mm-hmm. And now, we're seeing a resurgence. And I like to think that the people that stayed were the ones that needed to stay. And the people that, kind of did another career, maybe they weren't cut out for this in general anyways, because this is a tough business to be.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's hard work.
It is hard work, hot work, sharp work, but it is very rewarding, and you get instant gratification every day.
Mm-hmm. Well, giving back is, I think, what really separates you above other chefs. Winning an award is a great thing. To win the Beard Award is phenomenal, and it brings great recognition. But for you to take the time and bring that to our communities and really go to those who are at most need, to give them that confidence that they can go out and enter the workforce as very productive and make a good living at it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think our industry was always kind of that stepping stone industry. It was, I was putting myself through college or doing this or in between jobs. This is a real career, and if we take our craft seriously, then we can make a good amount of money doing it and provide for our families.
Oh, absolutely.
And community is one of the pillars of not only 1010 and the pitch, but just community and supporting our community is basically my ethos. Mm-hmm. So when we saw it at the watch party, I mean, 1,000 people in Charleston and around the state came to watch us go to Chicago, and it gave us, I think, a sense of pride, which is
absolutely
great. West Virginia needs more and should have more to cheer for, and I was just happy to be able for that evening to give us a little bit of cheer. It was great.
Excellent.
All right.
So now that we've got the turkey out of the brine, we need to take it out and take some of the aromatics off.
Take the aromatics off.
Dry it off.
Pat it dry.
Pat it dry.
Make sure. So two things for number one safety is if you're going to fry turkey, don't fry it in your garage, don't fry it in your house. Make sure you're in the yard, and also make sure it's dry.
And dry.
Because, obviously oil and water don't mix. Also, make sure it's thawed out.
And thawed out.
Because a frozen turkey becomes a projectile.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is, so we've got this now. It is ready to go. So now we're going to probably we're going to stick some more aromatics in it. We had the apple in the brine. So if we want to we're going to throw some apple in there. The tops of the celery that normally would get thrown away or maybe used for garnish in a Bloody Mary.
Yes.
Either way, we're going to throw a couple of those in there.
Some celery.
Throw a half an orange. Let's do a whole orange.
Whole orange.
All
Go big.
There. Go big. Couple of onion. And then we'll go ahead. You want to throw a couple of our leftover sprigs of thyme and rosemary. Again, we're just going to stuff things that are going to impart flavor into the meat. I don't know, turkey is one of those things that...
And the garlic?
Garlic cloves.
Garlic cloves? All right. Excellent.
Throw them all in there.
In it goes.
And we'll flip this over. Beautiful. Oh, this is a good time to talk about these things.
These things.
These things are worthless. I think when these things pop out, the turkey is like Christmas Vacation.
Overcooked.
Overcooked. So I'm going to take that. We're going to throw that away. What we're going to do is we're going to use a meat thermometer. We're going to cook it to 165 degrees. We're going to take the temperature kind of down here, in between like the thigh bone, because that's where
it's going to be
the thickest. It's going to be the most insulated.
Okay,
so you can also do it two different places. You can take one in the breast and down here. You want it to be roughly 165 degrees. It's going to carry over a little bit, so you can pull it at 163, 164. It'll carry over just a little bit because you don't want to get into the turkey and have it still a little pink.
I see. Now, down at the health department, I'm sure you've noticed all of our inspectors have a temperature probe.
Well, and I think this.
So once you got this bird stuff,
so we'll go ahead and we'll add a little bit of olive oil.
You just want to drizzle it?
Drizzle over it, and then we'll massage it in just a little bit. Be great. That's
an olive oil massage.
Olive oil massage. It's kind of like a day spa.
A day spa for the turkey?
For the turkey.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So sometimes we will take little pats of butter, kind of put it up underneath the skin. That to me is great. My favorite part of the turkey is the crispy skin. I can take or leave turkey, but the crispy skin,
that's the flavor.
Obviously, I like me some flavor.
Right.
So just kind of rub that in. Then we'll finish it with salt and pepper. A lot of times too, what you can do is if you've got onion, if you've got things that you can put underneath it to bring it up off of the pan. That way, number one, it doesn't stick and the skin doesn't stick to it. You can put a roasting rack. I like to put either a little bit of
some of the leftover vegetables. Wow,
underneath it. Again,
that's a great idea.
And
you're giving it more flavor.
And then too, all of the stuff that comes out is all basically chicken or turkey stock. So then when you're done, you've got, again, some infused more stock. And you can take this, remove the turkey from the pan when it's done, pour off that excess liquid into your gravy. And then you're fortifying your gravy. Not that we ever mess up gravy.
No, never. All right, so how long and at what temperature typically for a turkey?
Well, so that's one of those questions that is the thing. So they say 20 minutes a pound. I like to... So what I like to do is do it at about 325 with a convection oven. Or if you don't have a convection oven, 350 degrees.
350.
You kind of let it go. The skin will brown up. You take the temperature. I'd say, take it, probably check it in about an hour and a half, just to kind of see where you are. If you see that the skin is getting brown before you think, or it might burn before you think, then do kind of the tent method, where you put a little bit of foil over top of it. And so two things happen. Number one, it stops the browning on the outside. Number two, it kind of steams a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just make sure that you're always going to pull that off for the last like 5 or 10 minutes.
I see.
That way the skin crisps back up.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. So now that we have it out of the oven, we've taken out some of our aromatics, right, and we have a perfectly browned, cooked Thanksgiving turkey.
Beautiful. Great job.
Absolutely
Great
beautiful.
Job. Yes. So now, one of the keys, number one, we've made sure it was cooked to the proper temperature.
Yes.
Letting it rest. So you want to make sure you let it rest.
So what do you mean by rest?
So what's happening inside, whether it's any kind of protein, is those water molecules are all just kind of running around in there. So we want to make sure that we let it rest in order for everything to settle. Mm-hmm. And then when we slice or carve the turkey, all of the moisture is still in the meat and not in the pan,
not running out
on the cutting board.
Gotcha.
Because we want it in here.
Yes.
So we've already taken all the time to brine, all the time to stuff, all the time to give it the olive oil spa rub.
Yes.
And now we want to make sure that, we represent ourselves the best that we can. And when you're the head of the table carving the bird and handing it out to everybody, then they're like, wow, great job.
Perfect. Well, Chef Paul, I really want to thank you. This has been an incredible episode. It's a first for us to do a cooking show, and would love to do another someday.
Anytime.
We are truly privileged to have you here in our community, to have you giving back to our community, and to continue to serve great meals to our community.
Well, I thank you guys for everything that you do. During our industry and your industry together during COVID really saved a lot of restaurants and a lot of people. So thank you guys for all you do for our community. I am proud to be here and proud to do this, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Oh, thank you. And I want to thank all of our viewers today. We've had a great show. We hope you have enjoyed the show, and most importantly, that you've learned how to do some safe cooking to keep not just a delicious turkey on the table, but that you've cooked it in a safe manner and nobody gets sick this holiday. I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.